Make sure you get a picture.
All right.
Satisfying.
It is.
It's a good class.
It is a little satisfying.
I don't really know why I use them, but I like it.
Right. Welcome to this edition of the Great American Whiskey Cookers. We are doing a tasting here at Swisher, Iowa at Cedar Ridge Distillery, and we're tasting through a whole number of their different expressions, but the one that's sitting in front of us is the one that's getting all of the press right now and is just winning everything. I'm sitting with Murphy Quint, head distiller, and Megan Patz, marketing director, and we're going to talk about and taste the QuintEssential, right?
Yeah.
This is a single malt.
Yeah, so this is our American single malt, and out of everything we produce here, this is the one that I'm most proud of and passionate about, both the category of the whiskey and the product itself. So it's a ton of fun. Like you said, American single malt in general is getting a lot of press right now, and we're really glad to be involved in the movement and create something that hopefully, one day our great-grandchildren can enjoy is the category of American single malt. It's fun to be a part of establishing that with the rest of the American single malt community. So this one in particular it's called QuintEssential. It is a solera vatted malt. And the way that we produce it is definitely the coolest thing that we do, but it is a mouthful. It's a lot to explain, so let me dive into it. So we start out aging all of our distillate in our own ex-bourbon barrels. Usually that's about 4 years of aging. After that, we'll transfer it into a number of different finishing casks. I mean, the whole goal is to fill up as many different barrels as humanly possible. So we'll use fun ones like, sherry butts, port pipes, brandy casks, rum casks. We'll use different oaks like French oak, American oak, Hungarian oak. So there's really no end. If we can find a fun barrel, we'll fill it up with single malt, because what that does is it gives us more flavors that we can work with at the end of the process. So after that finishes in its casks for about another 2 years after its initial aging, we'll bring them into our distillery. I'll taste through them, and I'll determine which of those barrels should go into our solera vat. The way that we do that is we taste the vat, we taste the barrels, we determine which ones would best marry together. So at that point, you've got a batch. For instance, this is batch 13 right here. And then eventually we'll bottle that, and now we got to fill it back up. So we'll keep repeating that process. Bottle half the vat, fill it back up. Bottle half the vat, fill it back up.
And that's the solera method.
That is the solera method. It's kind of a modern twist on a solera, if you will. It's not the traditional pyramid of barrels that, 100 years ago would have been the way to do it. But so it's kind of a modern twist on it. But it is fun because this vat, this solera vat, it's slowly evolving over time, because obviously I'm adding different barrels to it with each batch. The goal is to have some continuity. I mean, batch 8 and batch 9 are going to be fairly similar to one another, but batch 8 versus 28, by then it'll probably evolve quite a bit into a slightly different flavor profile. So it is a slow evolution, as most soleras are, but it's just a ton of fun from both a producer's standpoint and a consumer standpoint.
So what you're saying is, if I buy a bottle and I love it, absolutely love it,
Yeah.
right? I might want to go back to the store and look for more bottles of the same batch, because I'm in love with that, and a batch that's 3 or 4 batches down the road might be just a little further from my profile than I really like, right?
Yeah, and that certainly is possible. One thing I'm very careful about, though, on the other end of things, is I definitely don't want to shock the system. I don't want to get too far away from where we started, because then it's difficult for, like you said, consumers to keep coming back to it, but also retailers and bartenders to explain it. They're going to need to be able to explain what it should taste like to their customers. And so if it's going to get wildly different, that's going to be a problem. So I have to walk a fun but dangerous and complicated line of, we want it to evolve, because people, they want to try to find and pinpoint the differences between batch 8 and batch 9. But it can't be like batch 8 is a peat smoke show and batch 9 is, wine influence. It can't be like that. It's got to be a slow and soft evolution over time.
So when you're tasting barrels, how much time does it take to taste the barrels?
Well, for that specific process, a lot. And my team will tell you, I'm almost always going insane by the end of the process. I mean, I'll fill up the solera vat somewhere between 7 and 14 days. It takes about that much time to do it. So I'll start pulling barrels and sampling through them and determine which ones go in. But then I'll get to the point where the vat is almost where I want it, and I can't quite get it to exactly where I want it. So it's like that last 5% of the process that starts to really drive me insane until eventually I finally hit my mark. So it's kind of stressful and complicated, but so rewarding, because once I finally get it there, I'm very happy, very satisfied. I kind of did this hard thing But near the end of the process, it drives me insane.
Great. Well, let's try it.
Yeah, let's do it. So this is our quintessential American single malt.
And proof is, I'm seeing 92 proof.
92 proof. That's exactly right. And you'll see, so one of the cool things about American single malt, I would argue the coolest thing about American single malt is the range that whiskey can have as far as flavor profile goes. And that comes down to different processes. I mean, if you're going to use new oak versus used oak, that's going to be very different. If you're going to use pale malt versus chocolate malt or black malt, it's going to create a whiskey flavor profile that's very different. So there's so much range to explore from a flavor standpoint as a consumer that it makes it really exciting. Ours in particular is going to be more like a traditional Scotch. We use used barrels, we use pale malt. It's going to be kind of softer and a little bit more delicate.
Yep, I get that on the nose.
And that's what I'm going for in this particular bottle.
Yeah, I get some of the Scotch notes, some of that peated, that smokiness.
Yep, and the peat, it's just a real light peat. Mm-hmm. I always try to tell people that, if this is a movie, the peat's it's a supporting actor. It's not the, it's not the main character. It's just kind of there to round things out and contribute, but it's not the show.
Yeah.
That's got a very warm feeling in my mouth.
Yep.
Nice and balanced.
And, one thing I'm always going for is something that's very layered and complex. I mean, because, we use ex-apple brandy barrels and ex-sherry barrels and ex-port. I mean, you can find some apple brandy notes. You can find some raisin and fig from that sherry. You can find some deep cherry from maybe the port influence. All that's there if you look for it.
Yeah, it's.
And sometimes you get that caramelized sugar from the rums.
That's what I'm.
Finishes.
That's what I'm picking up on this.
A little bit of molasses, definitely.
Yes,
I get plenty of rum finish on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. This is great. I can see why this is getting so much press and why this particular expression of yours is getting all sorts of rave reviews.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a ton of fun. It's been well received so far. We think that we're positioned really well as the category continues to grow and expand. I mean, as most people know, American single malt isn't even technically a recognized category yet by the TTB. That's something that as a commission we're really working on.
Right.
But once it is defined and established in a legal way, we really want to be positioned well to compete within it. And that's what we're doing right now.
And is this a regular release now?
It is. Yep. So this is our quintessential, our Solera edition. It is a regular offering that's always in stock. We have started to release some fun kind of offshoots of it. We have a quintessential special release that we started doing. So we've got some fun stuff cooking on that end, but this one is one that's always in stock and available year round.
Fantastic. And there's just on the back end finish, I'm getting just a hint of spiciness. Just a hint of it, which is really kind of fun.
Just a touch. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So they can find you at cedarridgedistillery.com.
Yep.
Right? And on the socials, Megan, where do they find you
At Cedar Ridge, Iowa, on Instagram and Facebook.
Fantastic. And to get in touch with you, Murphy, how do they do that?
At Murphy Quint on Instagram.
Fantastic. I'm Jeff for the Great American Whiskey Cookers. Until next time, can't be good. Be good at it. See ya. This is delicious.
Thanks, bacon.